What up, boys, and welcome back to another video. So Blizzard has finally confirmed that they are in fact working on a Classic Plus or a Classic Fresh, right? So that's really cool. So that's what we're going to be talking about in this video today, and what changes that I want to see Blizzard do, and then I also want to hear from you guys what changes you want to be going into the Classic Fresh or a Classic Plus, depending on what we're going to get in the game will define if we're going to call it Classic Fresh or a Classic Plus. But in that, on that note, I do want to mention that you guys can now grab a copy of the complete goal guide for Classic WoW. Now it's finally out there. I just published it since Blizzard confirmed some time ago that they are in fact working on Classic Fresh. And it's already like 60 pages long, I believe. And I'm going to keep on updating the book all the way up until release and even after release. It depends on what kind of changes we get to Classic. So if you want to get it because you're hyped about playing Classic again, you can use the code CLASSIC and you will get 50% off. So it's going to be linked down below. So basically what Blizzard said is that they're working on Classic Fresh. And I'm really optimistic about it because you guys can see the changes that Blizzard is doing in 9.1.5. They're actually implementing a lot of the feedback that the community has given them, such as like no AoE cap and all the things with the conduits and so on. So I hope and think that Blizzard will also listen to a lot of the feedback that they received during Classic and the feedback that they are receiving now on what people want in Classic. So I still think it's dangerous to add too much new stuff to Classic because it's no longer going to be the Classic that people enjoy, right? But my optimal dream would be for Blizzard to release Classic TBC and Wrath of the Lich King and then re-release the expansions, kind of like a season. Like they release Classic with the changes. Maybe like, doesn't have to be much. Maybe like a couple of new dungeons, a couple of new dungeon sets, some wild cards going into the season of Classic, and the expansion shouldn't last that long. We shouldn't have to wait months in between the patches, right? And then we dive over to TBC, and the same thing in TBC, and then we go into Wrath of Lich King, and then we start back again at Classic with the changes, like big enough changes for people to always wanting to play the expansions over and over again. Similar to how you have like Diablo 3 and Reaper of Souls. It's pretty much the same game, but like every season has like new sets and so on. It just needs a tiny bit of changes enough to people, like for people to play them. So that will be really cool. But Classic in general, Classic Plus, Classic Fresh, Blizzard hasn't mentioned any changes right now, like what they've been working on, just the fact that they are working on it. So I've been reading a lot of posts on Reddit, the forums, and watching a lot of videos on it. So I want to talk about some of the changes that I want to happen in Classic. First one, being a gold farmer, I obviously want guild banks, like just handling all the stuff that you're farming. I can just imagine how much of a shitfest it must be if you're in like an active raiding guild, like keeping control of everything. So guild banks, I don't really see any reason why Blizzard shouldn't add guild banks. I really don't. Another thing that has been discussed a lot is talents, like respec cost, dual talents, the cost of learning new spells and so on. And I honestly want dual talents, but you can only change talents at the trainer, like if that makes sense. You can't just be in Salatus, farm goal, like, oh shit, you're getting ganked, time to change talents, right? And then you go and smash the shit out of them. Like, I want dual talents. You set them once, you can respec them at like the same cost, but like if you have dual talents, you shouldn't have to respec them too often, and you can just go to the trainer and switch talents. That's what I personally want. Personal opinion. Don't get mad at me. Another thing is XP in Classic. There's also a lot of people discussing that it's too slow to level up in Classic and they want more XP and so on. And I'm not personally against it. Like, I don't mind if we get like the same amount of XP from killing stuff, but like the amount of XP doing the quests as we did get in the pre-patch for TBC and that we have in TBC, where you get more quests or more XP for finishing quests. Because that's going to allow you to just quest in order to go from 1 to 60 You don't have those weird levels where you actually have to grind mobs for like 2-3 levels before it's wise to go into another zone. But as a farmer, and since I know like all the spots to go and grind for a couple of levels in order to make gold, which is also included in the complete classic gold guide, has a big focus on classic fresh. Like, what should you do when you start on classic fresh and there's nothing up on the auction house, nobody has any gold? So basically, just when you're level 40, you've done enough grinding spots to be able to afford the mount at 40 and the same at 60. So I don't mind if they just keep the XP as is, because I honestly think that in Classic, leveling is the biggest part of the game itself. Like, that's leveling. So I don't mind if they just keep XP as it is. I really don't. I think that's kind of fun. I always loved to level. Besides from that, I do want some new content though. I think that would be cool. Depends on how they do the whole thing. If it's just going to be Classic Fresh with like minor changes, or if it's going to be more like a Classic Plus with huge changes. If that's the case, I want a couple of new dungeons, maybe like a Scarlet Raid. I don't know, a couple of maybe just 1 or 2 new dungeons that's way harder than the current dungeons. And when you kill the bosses, there should be 5-man. When you kill the bosses, maybe they can drop you like pre-raid bis epics. That would be cool to get like actual good epics from the bosses in that new dungeon. So I think that would be really, really cool. Besides from that, I do, well, even though I played a mage in Classic and Classic TVC myself, I do want to see some change of like AoEing in Classic. I don't think it's fun when you're trying to level the ordinary route and it's impossible to get people to do group quests and dungeons with you because they're all getting boosted by mages or paladins in dungeons. So even though I play a mage myself, I think that something should be done so people can't do like the Sulfaric and Moradon boost and all of that. If that's just basically like an XP cap or big reduction when you're in a group with somebody that's way lower level than you, or if they need to implement an AoE cap. I don't like AoE caps though, but I do think that something needs to be done with boosting people for levels. So I think the reduction when you're in group with somebody that's a lower level than you is great. So if you're level 10 and you're getting boosted by 60 mage, you will only get 10% of the XP or something like that. I think that's going to help the game drastically. Besides from that, if they do decide to do a complete makeover on Classic, like make a Classic Plus, I would want to see some kind of rated system for, besides from just rank 14 Grand Marshal that takes up all your time, like 20 hours a day. Maybe rated battlegrounds is the way to go. Could be fun to test out arenas as well, but I would be fine with rated battlegrounds. That shouldn't be too hard to implement like on Classic. So obviously, besides from all of the things that I mentioned right now, the big issue is obviously bots. Like, how do you reduce the amount of bots? I think it's impossible to like completely remove the bots, but by having like, if there's a lesser demand for gold, there's going to be a lesser demand for buying gold from these bots, so there's going to be automatically less bots. But I honestly think that the bots are around for so long, sometimes forever, like they never get banned. So I honestly think that the best way to deal with these bots is simply by having active game masters. They have one job, and that is to find the bots and ban the bots. That's it. I just think if you hire a couple of people that's dedicated to removing bots in the game, I don't think it's hard, because if I can find 20 bots in an hour, like a game master that can fly around and has a lot more tools than I do can find 50 of them easily and just ban them constantly. So that's pretty much it, what I want to see in a Classic Plus or a Classic Fresh. Regardless of what changes they do, even if they just do minor changes, I'm going to be super excited to play it, because the leveling part of the game, reaching 60, starting to work towards your pre-raid bis gear and all of that, I really, really enjoy it. And this time around, I want to do it on just different classes than I did previous time. So I'm going to play it regardless. But please let me know down below in the comment section what you want to see in a Classic Plus or a Classic Fresh. And don't forget to check out the complete gold guide for Classic WoW. That's it for today's video. thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all back in on tomorrow's video. So make sure you subscribe if you haven't, and you will be notified whenever I upload a new video. Also click the bell thingy, and you should be all good. But until then, bye-bye.